Hello, wherever I'm this Jane's videos, and it looks like a lot of us, myself included, were wrong yesterday when we thought that Spirit Halloween was not going to show us anything else until Flagship. Here we are. The rest, or most of the rest of the Spirit Halloween 2022 lineup is out. And there's some really cool things. There's some things I'm disappointed by that I thought I was going to like and I didn't like. There's some things I didn't even know about, and there's some things that exceeded expectations. So, overall, I'm excited to get into this and discuss my opinions. Keep in mind, that's exactly what these are. These are just opinions. I'm sure there's a few other things we still have yet to see, like online animatronics and maybe some more box-only ones. So, let's get right into it. I'm going to start with this one that a lot of people aren't even discussing, but I think it's worth noting because a lot of people think this is just like a tabletop or a small prop, but it's technically a full animatronic because on the sizing chart that they show, like the height of these props on the site, it's about 3 feet tall or 3 feet wide or whatever. It's the Deadly Creeper, I think it's called. It's just a spider that moves its legs. Not much to say about it. It's not too special, but I don't think it's bad. A lot of people, the people I know who have talked about it, don't really like it. I don't think it's bad because it's not trying to be anything it's not. It's just a spider that moves its legs. It's going to have its market. Now, granted, I don't know how much this thing is going to cost. If it's a lot of money for what it is, then I think I'll have very different opinions on it. But for what it is, it's just a spider. Nothing too special, but nothing too bad either. It's not like a horrible, horrible prop. This next one's Tombstone Error, which I think is honestly the worst prop this year, if not the worst prop Spirit has ever sold. And granted, this thing is only $80, but still, I don't even think it's worth that. I think it's like worth $40 at most. It's just not good. Now, an idea like this isn't a bad idea, of course. It's a very basic idea, just a thing that pops up from behind a tombstone. My main issue with it is how bad it looks. It doesn't look like something that would be at Spirit. It does not look like Spirit quality. It looks like something you'd see at Big Lots. And that's a problem because Spirit has made a name for themselves that their stuff is some of the best stuff on the market. And usually Spirit stuff has a certain Spirit quality to it. This just doesn't. It looks very cheap. The skeleton just looks like a pose and stay skeleton. It just pops up. Overall, not a good prop in my opinion, so I'm just gonna move right on. Next up, we have young Crouchy, which it's weird. It's near the bottom of so many people's lists, but on its own, it wouldn't be a horrible prop. It's just on its own, it would just be a basic 4-foot clown. It would be like, okay, and it would be overlooked. But the problem here is that it is young Crouchy and it wasn't needed. Because if they wanted, I love the original Crouchy. I really, really like that prop. I think it's a pretty solid animatronic. I've always loved it. I've always thought it's pretty scary. I'm not really into the monster clowns. I'm more into the creepy, subtle clowns. However, I think young Crouchy was a monster clown done right, and I really, really liked him. But what made him so good is how big he was. And it really made him intimidating and scary. They took what made Crouchy good and took it away and gave us this 4-foot tall Crouchy that has the same audio, same animation, just light up eyes, and it's 4 feet tall. I don't know why. And not to mention, this thing is $230, which is less than $100 price difference from the 7-foot tall giant Crouchy. Why you would purchase this thing instead is beyond me, and what's even more beyond me is the fact that they made this thing instead of just releasing the new Crouchy again or bringing him back. If they wanted a Crouchy back, they could have just brought Crouchy back. There was no need to give us a small version of an already great animatronic and make it something that's not great. And overall, most people aren't liking it, so I'm going to assume they're going to get backlash for this, and they're going to hopefully see the errors in their ways of not just bringing Crouchy back. With that out of the way, it's young Crouchy. It's not a bad animatronic on its own, just the choicing of having it there was pointless, in my opinion. Lil Skelly Bones is back, but in a very different way. I definitely would say I prefer the original. I've never been a huge fan of the original Lil Skelly Bones, but I've never hated it at the same time. It's fine for what it is. I get why people like it. It's just never really been my thing. But I do prefer the original over this one. I think it's cool that they brought back the original voice actor, but I don't really like the phrases on this. His sing-songy voice just doesn't work with the phrases they gave him as much as it did with the old one. And I wasn't even that big of a fan of the phrases on the old one, but this one, I feel like it works even less. Especially because he cuts himself off in the middle of talking when he jumps up. I do think the animation is pretty cool, the way he's crouching and he jumps up like that. It's unexpected, but it's not going to scare a lot of people unless they're little kids because of how small it is. I don't think this was really needed. Again, like young Crouchy, it wasn't really needed. If they wanted Lil Skelly, just bring back Lil Skelly. I don't get why they're trying to give us new versions of things that already exist. They could have just brought him back. It's kind of cool to see, but again, just like young Crouchy, it's just kind of pointless. Now we have Mr. Punchy, which is a very controversial one. A lot of people don't like this one, but then there's people who do like it, and props to you. There's nothing wrong with liking it. My thing is, I think it looks cool in the face. I think the face has a pretty cool sculpt. It looks uncanny, for sure. And I really like the idea they were going with. They were going with the whole punching bag clown idea, which I think everyone understands at this point. I don't understand why they executed it in the way they did. And I'm not even talking about the inflatable bottom to it. That's not a problem. I get why they did that if that's what they were going for. That's actually kind of cool. The appearance overall, even though it is very cheesy looking, I don't mind it because that's what they're trying to go for. A more cheesy looking, literally blow up clown, punching bag clown. And I think they did that well. My problem is it just moves in a circle and it has jump scare audio. It says, "I got a secret, come closer," and then he goes, "Bah!" And he doesn't do anything when he does the jump scare sound. He just continues to rotate. I don't get it. I don't know if they had an original other idea for this guy that just wasn't fully realized and they just gave us this, or what happened there, but I find it really weird. I think he's not one of the worst things I've ever seen, but I don't love him. I think his appearance overall is cool, but I just think that animation is really not what it should have been. It should have been something a lot cooler. Now, who knows if in person it's going to be way faster or whatever, but I just think it wasn't necessary, especially with the audio he has. It doesn't make sense. But he's not horrible. He's not bottom of the barrel. He's kind of mid-tier. Possessed Pumpkin is one I was so looking forward to. He looks awesome, other than his plain clothing, but you know what? He's got a really cool face sculpt. He's got really cool hands. He looks super cool, this giant pumpkin monster, which on the sizing chart online it says he's 6 feet tall. I don't think he is. If you've seen the theme pictures, he looks about 7 feet tall. So he's basically a pumpkin Crouchy. But I expected him to do exactly what Crouchy does, just laugh with a deep voice and turn from side to side. I would have liked him a lot. But they gave him this voice and these phrases, which honestly, in my opinion, is the most kid-friendly, cheesy thing I've ever seen at Spirit. And kid-friendly things are fine. You know, there's a market for scary things, there's a market for kid-friendly things. But with the sculpt they gave this guy, they obviously intended him to look scary, and then they gave him the Cookie Monster voice, talking about, "You carved up my friends." Like, the phrasing choice is also really stupid, the way he says it. But just the voice, it doesn't work, and neither do these phrases. And for $330, that's $30 more than Crouchy. We're already going to say that's overpriced by $30. I don't know. It upsets me. I still don't think he's one of the worst simply because I like how he looks. But he's one I originally was actually planning to possibly purchase, and then I saw his video and heard his voice and phrases, and now I'm not. And I think they're going to lose a lot of people purchasing this thing because they did that with it. I don't know why they can't just simply make a prop be scary and stick with it. They always have to add Well, not always, as we'll get into some really cool ones in a moment. But a lot of times they have to add these phrases that just aren't good, or this voice that just isn't good, and it just doesn't work for certain animatronics, and it's upsetting. And I know they're going to lose some sales on this guy for sure because of that. I don't know. Just not the best in my opinion. Let's talk about Reagan. She's cool. I will tell you, she is cool. And in my opinion, better than the Morbid Enterprises one, which I actually did own. But if you watch Hauntformer's channel and see his Reagan in the background of his videos sometimes, that was mine. I did a trade-off with him for it last year. Because I've always liked Reagan simply because I love The Exorcist, and so I wanted a Reagan prop. But as time went on, I came to realize this prop isn't that good. It's not screen accurate. It's just it's not that good of a representation of Reagan. It never really was. But it was all that we had. But eventually I was like, I can do without it because it's not that great. So I will tell you, I like this Reagan a lot more than the Morbid one, and I think most people do. The face sculpt on this thing is insanely good. It looks just like Reagan from The Exorcist. It looks fantastic. She looks great. I love how she has the straps on her wrists, and one of the coolest things about this is the Pazuzu projector that she comes with. How it projects Pazuzu on the back wall. That is awesome. That's a really cool concept, and I think it's really cool. Obviously, her head also rotates. What else could you expect from Reagan? I have two issues, but honestly, I think the more I look at her and the more I watch it, those two issues fade away because of how cool she looks. Unfortunately, her audio is pretty bad, and it's something that really upset me because I was really looking forward to her because I love The Exorcist, and I was really hoping to get a really good Reagan, and she is really good, but the audio is upsetting because it's not from the movie. It's someone doing a really bad impersonation of the movie, and it's not even like they found someone who can do a good job at it. It doesn't sound good. It's kind of sucks. I don't get why they get the licensing to The Exorcist, but they can't use movie audio. It doesn't make sense to me. However, her looks kind of overshadow that, but then my other major issue is she's $280, which is a lot, considering all she does is rotate her head and the Pazuzu projects on the wall. She's great. She's really cool. Definitely the best Reagan we've seen by a long shot. However, she's very expensive, and I'm still deciding on whether I'll get her or not. I could not. It depends. I really gotta see her other phrases, because maybe it's just that one phrase that doesn't sound too good. No matter what, it's not movie audio, which sucks. But maybe the other phrases sound better. Maybe they sound more like movie audio. Because there are licensed props that don't use movie audio, but still sound good. And, like, I'm pretty sure the old Reagan didn't, because it had phrases in there that weren't from the movie and were edited for the prop, but it still sounded good. So possibly it could. We gotta wait and see. Right now I'm torn. I think it's a great prop. It is. It's a great animatronic. It looks just like her. However, there are a few issues that are stopping me from being sure if I want to purchase it or not. We will have to get a better look at her before I can fully decide. The Widow. She is cool. She looks great. Her face looks creepy. She's very gothic looking. And the coolest thing about her is her animation where she breaks her neck. It is so awesome and really, really just a super cool overall concept. And to see something like this coming out of Spirit these days is really cool. Now, one thing I think they could have pushed the neck breaking a little farther, had it break a little bit more, because sometimes it just looks like she's tilting her head, because anyone can tilt their head that far. She doesn't tilt it very far. However, I think it's still implied what's happening there, and that's what's cool about it. Especially, and also she just looks great, for sure. And one thing I absolutely adore about this is she has an area on her neck where you can see where the bone is like showing, and you can see how it's reddened, and it actually shows that she broke her neck, and it's only visible when she tilts her head. That is awesome. Really great job on that. That's disturbing, that's creepy, that's really dark and edgy. I like it. I don't know how much she's going to cost, but she is really cool. She's not one I'm probably going to get, mostly because she's online only. So again, that's an example that they're losing sales by just not putting this in stores. I know I don't count as much, but that's one less person who's going to buy it in store, who's going to not buy it because it's not in stores and they have to pay shipping. And I think there's going to be other people who follow along with me with that, because other people are probably not going to want to buy it too, and less people know about it, because more people know about the stores than they do the website. I don't know why they chose not to put her in stores, but with that aside, she's a great prop. This is Betty Sharp, which is one I'm disappointed by. I was excited for her. At first I wasn't, and then I got excited for her when I saw pictures of her, because she's got blood on her. She's got a knife. She's splattered in blood. She's got a bag with a body in it that's all bloody. That's awesome. Spirit doesn't give us too much things with actual blood on them anymore. And so I was liking it. I thought it was going to be super cool. And I think appearance-wise, she still is. A lot of people don't like her face. I like her face. I think it looks cool. I think it fits. And I really like the blood. And I think that's one of the main things I like about it, is she's an actual proper serial killer type prop, which we don't see much of at Spirit anymore. And so I appreciate that a lot. She's basically what Mommy's favorite should have been, but at the same time, she's what Mommy's favorite shouldn't have been, because of the fact that she's got one animation and it's just the bag moves very, very slightly, that it's not even noticeable. That's excusable if this was under $100, but it's not. It's $170. That is crazy for something that has one animation that you can hardly even see. Basically, she just stands there and is $170. I'm upset about it, because even if she would have just raised the knife a little bit, or turned her head, or turned side to side, I possibly would have bought her, because she's very versatile. She's a dark concept. I think she's cool. But for that price and an animation that's one animation that you can't even notice, it's just not worth it in my opinion, and it's kind of upsetting. You're not going to talk about Nozzles the Clown. Nozzles is a pretty cool concept. He's this toxic hazmat type clown who sprays fog out of nozzles that he has for hands. And he's got an overall really cool look too. I love his face. I love his long pointy nose. I love his color scheme and how his suit kind of looks like it's got like a kind of rusted look to it. He looks really great. And a lot of people are talking bad about his phrases. I don't mind his phrases or his voice, because he's already kind of a cartoony looking clown. I think that's what they were going for with him, so I think his cheesy phrases and stuff, they work. My main issue is that he only has 2 animations and is $350. In my opinion, that's the most unreasonably priced animatronic I think Spirit has ever sold. Like, that is crazy. $350 should be reserved for the best of the best, like Krampus. This guy costs the same price as Krampus, a huge 7-foot tall, super wide, super screen accurate licensed animatronic. Costs the same as a 5-foot clown with 2 animations. I don't know. The mouth doesn't move, which kind of is upsetting. I would kind of let it slide that his mouth doesn't move if he wasn't this expensive. And it's upsetting, because he's another one that disappointed me, but really, it wasn't the animation that disappointed me. I think it's the lack of. The animation is cool, how he moves his arms up and down like that as he sprays. I think it's pretty cool looking. The animation is not what ruined it for me on its own. The lack of, combined with the price, is what ruined it for me. If this guy was like $200, that's a pretty fair price for him, but he's $350. I don't know why. I don't get it. And he's gonna lose a lot of sales. I don't see how they can assume this guy's gonna sell good with how much he costs. The average buyer going into Spirit Halloween is not going to dish out $350 on a thing that's 5 feet tall and has 2 animations. It's just not going to happen. It's unreasonable to expect people to pay that much for this thing. It's a cool prop for sure. I'm excited to see it. I think it's definitely really cool. My only complaint with it really is the price, and it's upsetting. I possibly would have bought it if it was a lot cheaper, because it is really cool. But I can never bring myself to pay the price they are asking for this prop. It's insane. Last but certainly not least, and it has surpassed. Yesterday I said I couldn't decide between Monty and Lord Raven. I decided Lord Raven was my favorite and Monty was my second favorite. However, this one kind of made up for some of the disappointing ones today, as it surpassed both Monty and Lord Raven as my favorite. It's expected that I would like this one. First off, it's a servo animatronic. I loved Grimm so much. I mean, the Grimm was my favorite prop of last year, and it's not only because he was servo. I just loved the classic skeleton look he had, but a lot of it was because he was servo as well. This is a servo animatronic, but it's of a monster I like even more than skeletons. It is Strawman is his name, and he is a Scarecrow, and he is one of the coolest Scarecrows I think we've seen in a while, if not ever. He is basically Looming Strawman, but a million times cooler. And Looming Strawman is an awesome prop in my opinion. This guy's just super cool. He's got that classic Scarecrow look, the pointy hat, everything, but his face sculpt looks so incredible. It's so creepy looking. He has a really creepy, detailed face. His mouth movement's great, of course, and so is his head movement, because, of course, he is a servo animatronic, which is awesome. And he also sways from side to side, which I think is a cool added animation. I don't know how much this guy is. I'm hoping he's not more than 300. I'm really hoping he's not more than 300. I mean, usually I'd say this guy should be about 250, but considering the prices this year, I'm not going to expect that little. I'm expecting 300 at the least. I'm really hoping he's not more than that, but no matter what he is, he's definitely a purchase for me, because he's my favorite of the year, for sure, from Spirit. I think he's a great one. I think he looks great, his animation is great, and he does talk, and sometimes talking props are a hit or miss. They can ruin the prop, Possessed Pumpkin, for example. But with this guy, I really, really like not only his voice, but his phrases. He has some dark phrases about how the farmer used to hide his bodies under the ground. I think it's cool. I really, really like it. I think he's an awesome one, and I have a perfect idea for this guy. Obviously, my haunt theme this year is an asylum, so of course he's not going in the haunt. However, the event that I am running this year, which the haunt is at, is on a farmland. So for the overall event, I'm going to try to have a few Scarecrow and Pumpkin animatronics around. The haunt itself is an asylum, and it's obviously only going to be asylum stuff. But at the event that the haunt is at, it's kind of like a scare zone area in the main area. I think that this guy would go great, and I'm definitely going to get him and put him there. He's a really just super cool animatronic. Also, one more thing I want to mention about him, they don't go too far with the servo. Grimm is a great prop, but I think one of my only complaints with him was he did too much for this. The servo moved too much, and it's because servo's really lifelike and cool, but I feel like they were trying to show off the technology too much with him, that his head was moving constantly, and it just didn't really make sense. As cool of a prop he is, all the servo props were really suffering from that. This one, I feel like it doesn't move that much. I mean, it moves enough to see that it has a really lifelike animation, but it moves like the amount that you would think it would if he's just standing there talking, and I think it works. Overall, some pretty cool things shown today, some also not so cool things. We still have more to see, but I'm really liking some of these props. I don't think it's one of the best Spirit lineups, but I don't think it's a bad one either. I think it's just good. But with all of the other stores this year too really pulling through, I think it really makes up for how this year isn't one of the best Spirit years ever, because we have great stuff from Party City, Home Depot, and we have some good stuff from Spirit. So it's kind of like a whole mix of all these different stores are delivering this year, and it's really going to make for an absolutely amazing Halloween season with all of these cool products we got coming out. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for more. The Halloween season is almost here. Keep howling at the moon, my werewolves.